Okay, so I just got back from city council. I said nothing. That was kind of lame of me not to speak. I had a few things I could speak about, but I was thinking, okay, I wanted to call this actually open intel or open source intelligence, or basically I wanted or open intel on drugs and sex or sex abuse related things in my like homeless street scene. Oh, Bobby Bucket. Oh my gosh, no, not really. The real Bobby Bucket? How do I know it's the real one? Oh my god, I cannot believe it. Okay, so Bobby, you caught me. You are such a cop. I feel like now I've got to shut my mouth. This stalker couldn't possibly be the real Bobby. Now I just want to sing Lana Del Rey. Okay, I'm having half calf. Anybody notice my teeth aren't as yellow? I've not been drinking as much coffee. So I was just gonna snitch on the whole drug scene, and now, so Kahala was naked in the tent where Jessica wakes up, passed out, wakes up, and there's this naked guy in her tent, and she goes like, "It's a great God." Girls keep tabs on this stuff. I have got so many tabs, and so I wanted to like clarify for everyone the origin of the last name Lumadue. We have this interesting family in Astoria called Lumadue, but it's Lumadue, but that's an Americanization of the French L'Homme Dieu, which is man of God. And I thought it was the most ridiculous last name, like Lumpadu, and you can't remember it, like Loompa Loompa. I don't know. I really got so teased, like to have a name like this. But yeah, so I wanted to like let the viewers know that it literally means man of God, which is just perfect for like a multi-generational drug dealing family. So shout out to Dion and Xavier for always going to jail at the same time. And honestly, they're both kind of cute. Like Xavier tried to crash out my friend's place last summer, and he would be like, "My dad is my meth dealer. Like, he's been my meth dealer since I was 12." And he was like, "Just breathe." But like things got a little out of hand when I found the thing that looked like a pistol, but it was like a bob, whatever, like a bullet. What do you like? Do you shoot at pigeons or something? But I was like, "Are you using your little pellet pistol thing? What do you call that? To like intimidate people or shoot out windows, or what's the deal?" It looked like for all purposes it was a fake gun. So I was like, "Now please don't like do anything that looks like a firearm over here." So there would be little weird funny notes. So Kahala just walked by, and how I wanted to address the issues with, oh my god, is it the real Bobby Bucket? I'm not gonna believe this. Okay. Oh, honey, no, but I mean a cop of the leftist ideology. I don't mean cop like, I mean like you were about to bust me crossing enemy lines and being like a total snitch, and I need to be true to my leftist principles or something. But nah, I'm not. You're not a cop, but I mean, I am self-conscious around my total lavender husband hall monitor. So it can't possibly be that interesting if I feel surveilled. I think that I need to fix the lighting. That's the problem. That's a little better. But what about the Christmas lights? I love those violet Christmas lights. Okay, so what else is funny? Yeah, Dion, the older man, he's like 47. I was looking at the criminal record stuff. He's in for some felony driving. Felony. Can't even bring myself to drink coffee these days. I'm just so vain about my expensive teeth. Okay, so felony driving something, blah, blah, blah. And Xavier, yeah, no, he driving on a suspended. So they're not going in for drug related charges. But shout out to Diana Sundstrom, wherever she might be. I think she's in Portland. Somebody had seen her 4 days ago, which would now be 7, given the 3 days. And I don't see her for a while. She kind of goes underground, maybe like sleeps it off somewhere. But I miss her. I love her. She's incredibly beautiful. But we're having a lot of changes and shifts in the Astoria atmosphere. Like, for instance, there are now these. Oh, did I upload it yet? It's hilarious. It's the picture of a fentanyl foil on and a meth pipe are now on the laundromat restroom doors. Do not, and it says new smoke detectors. Don't even think about it. But it doesn't even say don't smoke fentanyl or don't smoke meth in our bathroom. But that's clearly what they're, it's almost like they don't want to say it. Okay. But you know what? I can do a thing. This is live. Bobby, I don't think you understand YouTube if this is the real Bobby Bucket. YouTube is live. Like, this is actually live. So, what else? So there's that. Okay, here's what I was gonna gripe to City Council about. I was gonna gripe about Fort George Brewery being a major polluter. But then I thought, well, like, how should I gripe? Should I gripe like, oh, well, thank you for not polluting 24 hours a day. Thank you for stopping your pollution at a reasonable hour. Or like, I don't want to come off as sarcastic, and I probably would. And then they're doing all these like wood fire smoking, smoke out bonfire. They think it's so cool for all these like yuppies to come have their beers around a bonfire and like pollute the whole neighborhood. And I've tried emailing and calling their management and like whatever, and they're just basically jerks out for like $1 million or whatever. So I thought about speaking about that. I also wanted to talk about canning. I wanted to tell the Astoria citizens, you can make this easier by bagging up your cans, setting them off to the side. Don't make it so hard on the canners, and just generally give it sort of like an environmental pep talk. And also, I kind of wanted to chew out the co-op for being jerks lately about canners. They just are like ruder and ruder and ruder to the canners. And I just have to remind myself they have a different ideology about the environment, and whatever spirit that the Oregon Liquor Control Commission allows them to sell alcohol if they return your 10-cent can. They act like it's just this horrible drudgery, but they have a staffing problem, and they probably have a wage and benefit problem, and then they have this ever increasingly intense, richer and richer demographic demanding all this gourmet health food. So the 10-cent can issue is just getting pushed down to this like, haven't we eradicated the co-op of the canners? Like, they act very like strained smiles and like almost like, oh, I'm not going to use that word. So that's an issue. I just want them to be nice and realize you are allowed to sell alcohol, which causes people to go, kill our loved ones in DUIs. So why don't you just be good stewards of the environment while you sell all these bottles? We don't have, and they're trying to do this, call and schedule. Every 30 minutes, we're going to have one bottle return. But then they have this thing where they're like, well, we can't accept 24 with no advance notice, because it's completely absurd that you've got to jump through all these hoops, call, get a schedule, have this advanced planning. But it does sort of bottleneck if you have like 3 huge loads of cans back to back. And what they're having is this struggle to keep their cashiers up front, while the cashiers are the ones responsible for the bottle. Basically, they just need to hire a bottle guy. And then Safeway's bottle problem is that they have a lot of young staff who are not allowed, evidently, to touch beer cans. So they have to, like, if they have the young guy working, they'll be like, we don't have the right staff for that. Bobby, what are you saying? Is this the real Bobby? Oh, wow. Freon? What's this all about? Oh, stop airing out people's laundry. Yikes. Yeah. And nobody has to follow me or watch this. No, see, the thing is, it's not airing out laundry, it's safety planning predators and I don't know, whatever. I got some cool video from city council. I find myself like on opposite sides of the spectrum all the time. I talk basically the lady who got in the big dilemma with the Goonies house, she got up and spoke again about the traffic and all these issues. I found that she's in Orange County, and I was like, "Whoa!" I just totally had this. Oh, I understand you differently. I was like, I don't have to explain sprawl and pollution to you. That's what she's talking about. She's trying to have her quiet little nestled, sweet, lovely retreat, and she basically she said, "Okay, this is crazy. The Goonies house has a Venmo barcode scanner where you can make donations." She said the Goonies house guy got swindled like he paid $1 million too much for his house. So now he's like, oh my gosh, I've got to commercialize the heck out of it. So he's getting donations from basically like, come take a snapshot by the Goonies house and give me a donation. And then there's all these people coming up. I asked if there was like an Airbnb problem around the area because it would seem natural that all these Goonies obsessed tourists might want to camp around there. But the funny thing that the Selena Hotel told me is that like all summer, their entire hotel will be booked with like Goonies maniacs who are all like, do you have a copy of the Goonies? And it's just like annoying. Goonies stuff has been annoying for years. I was like, whoa, how, like way back in 2015. So my new philosophy of city council is just to shut up and not. So when the lady who's and this one guy, he talked about housing first. He did a great job. It was like really statistical and helpful. And then when the lady was talking about all the traffic around the Goonies neighborhood, she was chatting the mayor up for like a really long time, and I like let her go. But then I talked to her sister and was like, I enjoyed her speech and like, thank you for standing up for what you believe. And then we spoke. But she's like, I thought you were going to speak. And I was like, my new weapon is silence. And I was like, oh no, I just put my foot in my mouth majorly. And the mayor's looking at me like, weapon? My new weapon is silence. But it really is because like when I went the other time, like maybe a month ago, I felt this like tension, like, oh my God, is she going to speak? It's going to be like really draining. And like, I feel like the intensity of my obsession to detail and my criticisms and like my obsessive mind are exhausting to other people, so that giving them a break from my critique and my obsessions was like, I felt the sigh of relief from the room that I'm not speaking. And I don't know, it could all be in my head because I'm like self-centered or something. But I realized, wow, that was like telling somebody like, you're off the hook, we're cool. And so then I realized, oh, I don't have to speak because I'm already getting all nervous because I'll speak all day. Like I used to speak all the time on every motion or something just to annoy the heck out of Charlie Hales. But today I just practiced like trying to memorize the names of the new council. And then I realized, well, maybe the reason why I don't feel so inclined to talk to this council, like, scold them or something, is they're not completely upsetting me yet. Because once I feel like there's like a loss of trust with the council, then I feel like that's when you just got it. You got to run. But right now, because this is sort of a new formation of the council, they're not in trouble exactly yet, other than there are some definite tone and tenor changes. Bobby, we can talk on the phone if this is really you. I don't think that's Bobby. I don't really want to have a chat right now, honestly. I just wanted to talk freely. Well, I was going to look for this list. I have the list. Of things I wanted to discuss. So there was like a weird incident yesterday. That was Sunday, May 14th. So today's Monday, May 15th. And that was, I'm walking with Steven to the market to recycle some cans. And a guy named Nick, I never know his name, but this guy calls him Nick. He gets all like, hey, gets all kind of weird seeming, like, what? To Steven. And then this other guy who I don't know at all, he's got like this scraggly beard thing. He's all like an older, maybe like 55-ish guy, grayed out. He's all like, and then I get through my cans, we get around the block, and Steven was like, people don't like me. And I'm like, cool, because people don't like me either. And so I wasn't even sure if they were being mean to him because he's walking down the street with me, or maybe we're both mutually hated for separate reasons. So that was a realization, and it rankled me because that guy, Nick, who I never know his name, he's a Cancer. I know that's his zodiac sign. He has like tattoos. Maybe he's in the bike scene or something. He always just like smiles and says hi to me, and I don't know his name. But one time he came up to me and like was bragging on Christoph attacking Steven and pushing him down the Filling Empty Belly staircase. And he was bragging to me as if I was going to be like patting him on the back, like, oh, wow, you guys are so cool for like beating up on a black man. Woohoo. And like, I'm just like taking it in like, this is so effed up. Why do these people think that I'm okay with this? Or this is some big victory? Like, or this is some proof that you're now a macho guy because you can go after Steven or something. And then they were saying there was this incident on the river, which then later, I think one day Steven was explaining to me the incident on the river and how he got away from whatever madness they were doing. So I found out Dan Kennedy got a double from two guys, like kind of like ambushed him on the river. And I believe like knocked him to the ground and then started kicking him. And then they ran away. And he's like, they didn't even take my wallet. I was like, what the heck? But it was probably some kind, I think it was maybe like some kind of targeted attack where people know who he is and like know his foul temper and his foul mouth and his drinking. I even think his being sort of like a pompous intellectual is not working out for him either. I was like, well, maybe it's because you're tall. Or I was like, maybe it's the incident last Christmas or like a Christmas and a half ago. Like he was had his head cracked open in front of Filling Empty Bellies and had to go to OHSU for like hemorrhage, hematoma, and skull fracture, and now has no sense of smell, like permanently lost his sense of smell and taste. He's trying to like improve that a little bit. And that was by Glenn, the guy who's on like Oregon State Police missing persons, Glenn Longquist, Swedish last name. Who the last we heard from Glenn was he went down to Seaside for an 8-ball and then disappeared. And like, I hate to imagine he might have been like thrown into the Mechanicum River or something horrible. Like what possibly could have happened to him? Or then I try to imagine something good, like maybe he just moved away to Iowa and is like completely incognito and happy. Like I would hope the best for him. But when I asked him about his like thing where Dan was like a COVID police kind of guy, he was all like, no, wear your COVID mask, you're killing people. So he was way too obsessed with COVID. So he's trying to like hassle all these people about COVID, probably while he's half drunk, and nobody wants to hear him lecture. It'd be like a babysitter or whatever. So Glenn pushes him. He cracks his head, I think on the light post or something. And I asked Glenn about it before he disappeared, and he was like, oh, he just fell over like a sack of potatoes. And I'm thinking, well, you don't know he's got like double hip replacement and like still fragile from like all his skeletal bone degeneration disorders. So he looks like a tall, scary dude, but he's actually kind of like frail. I talked to the guy who got stabbed at the Astoria warming shelter at the spa. He's such a sweet guy. He's like, I like you. And we definitely both agree the homeless services community should be less like infighting, less like competitive and rude and discriminatory, I would say. And he didn't know that Quentin, Nicole Mackey's relative, had assaulted Dwayne at Lifeboat, and that there was never any. I mean, Carrera showed up. So I heard Carrera, the officer who everybody has a crush on, evidently, because he's charming and like he's nice. I think that is a lot of it too. He's just like a sweet person. But Carrera, I've even also heard that he's so nice that he can get in trouble for being nice. But Carrera, he shows up after Dwayne has been like pushed and then finally pushed to the ground in this violent push by Quentin. And basically, you can never get anything that sounds like sense from Dwayne anyway. Dwayne probably couldn't testify as a victim because he's just like incomprehensible, mumbling, drunk, and funny like ways of making his words and hard to understand. So it was Carrera's understanding Dwayne didn't want to press charges against Quentin. And I'm thinking like, well, that could change. Maybe, Dwayne could be brought to the ability to testify. And like I specifically knew, oh yeah, they don't want any more attention from all these cops and crimes and punch outs and all this stuff, that drama going on. But that was just about it for me. I was like, wow, I do not want to be hurt here. I don't want to be assaulted. So Steven saw the thing with Dwayne, got surrounded. And basically Steven was like, if you really think he's that much of a risk, call the authorities who know how to de-escalate. Don't try to like surround him and basically provoke him. So Steven was talking some sense in that regard. See how I'm not slamming my coffee. It's just getting cold. So Griffin was like, I don't like you anymore. And then he was nice. So I'm like, okay. Oh, so the police report on the incident outside Holiday Inn, basically a 62-year-old woman got assaulted. But they came out with some like investigatory report that was basically kind of like completely victim blaming to her, like, or they filled in. It's almost like they're playing defense attorney for the people that assaulted her, from the police perspective, which is to me not very fair. But they're like, oh well, she said something rude to the girl, so her guy friend, who's also, they're both juveniles, like assaulted her. And then they played it kind of like, well, she deserved to be assaulted. And I mean, that was the sort of tone of where the fact pattern was being issued to the public. But I think they did that basically to just say, maybe like downplay that, oh, there's a bunch of dangerous assaults on the river now, because of like how they pushed the camping ordinance on this, like, basically they made the river walk like a free camp zone pretty much at nighttime to comply with the Oregon rulings regarding, or the Ninth District rulings about like you are allowed to camp if there's no shelter at night. So I think they were trying to basically victim blame the woman, so then other people are going to be like, well, as long as I don't pick fights with juveniles, I'm not going to be assaulted or something. Is there anything else interesting at all? Oh my gosh, it was crazy. The market in the heat wave yesterday was amazing. Like the heat wave was amazing. The market was kind of annoying, but awesome. And I failed to hear the band, and I don't know if they weren't loud enough or they didn't play long enough, but sometimes they have good music at the Sunday market in Astoria. But it seemed more traveled than ever. Like tourism is booming. It was really big. And I don't remember it being ever that crowded. Okay, so on to a very difficult subject, the murder of Anna Knudsen. So I've talked to a couple of people that may have information. Okay, for one thing, she was a housekeeper at a short-term rental. They don't make that clear exactly in the article, but she was checking in on a house for which she is a housekeeper. Well, she was found there. That's where her body was found, and they had to have the homeowner go and unlock it after her roommate reported her missing. So one thing I heard was that, well, I heard two kind of, I don't know if they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but I heard it was a biker who was seen at a bar treating her aggressively, rudely. I heard also it was a parolee who had just gotten out of prison for rape, but he was going to reoffend, and this time he both raped and murdered her. I still am not hearing what the murder the murder method was, and I'm assuming it was a strangulation type murder. Um, and then just like, not that they're connected at all, but I feel very troubled sometimes when I read like crime report, like news or little blurbs and stuff, because I notice Clatsop County seems to just really push things under the rug quickly because it's bad for tourism to dwell on our problems. But like there was a woman's body strangled on Sunset Beach a few years back. Do we know who strangled her? Does anyone care? She was homeless. I think they kind of dwelt on, oh yeah, we found some criminal records of her from another state, or kind of just basically homeless, blaming her, like, oh well, it's your fault. You have an unstable life, so of course you're getting strangled on a beach. But where is the killer, and is he at large, or he might be like still in our community? I ran into ooh, talk about stuff I shouldn't say. I ran into someone who told me there is an open FBI probe into Astoria finance or misuse of federal funding. That, and I'm like, is there a crime tip or is there an open investigation? What does that mean? I don't know. Yeah, and like maybe some, I don't know. And I was like, is that because you have a contact? It's like, how do you know this? And he was like, because I know. And I'm like, okay. And then I thought I should talk about the Garth scenario. Garth approached Jack at karaoke, this wonderful karaoke night. I just wore myself out so much to karaoke for a lot, almost 2 weeks ago. But Garth approached Jack like after I think I was dancing to Strawberry Fields Forever to be like a total hippie. I just really like that song, and the guy is a great singer. But he's like, thanks for dancing. But so then Garth took it the opportunity to come, because I had been sitting by Jack, to go and talk to Jack and be like, I'm really worried Lifeboat is going to close down, and I'm really angry at Mary for like reporting them to the Labor Department for disability discrimination. And but what was so nice is I knew this was happening, or like, I was like, well, I don't want to get in the way of their friendship. I'm not trying to steal Jack, because I know Jack is friends with Garth, and we all used to sort of be like chit chatty karaoke friends. So I just kind of like stood back and let them have their words with each other. And then Jack, of course, dutifully told me what was up with Garth. Because I mean, Garth is super cold shoulder now. And he used to be kind of schmoozy and almost kind of, I don't know if you could call it flirty, because I don't know if he knows how to flirt, but I think he's just bored and sociable. He's a Sagittarius. They're good at that, just being sociable with anyone and everyone. So I'd see him down at the local bar a lot and run over and chit chat with him. But he'd feed me all this information. Like he fed me information about the permitting process. Basically, somebody turned Filling Empty Bellies, the Lifeboat Ozark, in for having an expired permit on the shower. So the shower never got constructed down there at the basement pit. And then he'll tell me other things. Like he told me Kahala is in the meth scene, or like And then somebody else I like was like, "Is Kyle a dealer?" Because I just started to notice patterns. Because like he'll tell me which people do drugs. He'll tell me funny things. Like he told me like he like basically I think he threatened to throw a brick at Luis because Luis was like stealing or tampering with his yard or something. And he Garth is this like incredible puff of blonde hair and gravelly, like in his early 60s, but kind of like fit and with it, and carries a machete. And like he's like from Detroit. He's been lived in the East Coast, like he's Pennsylvania and New York City, and he's just like pretty much he tells police what he's gonna do to people, not the police tell him what he's not allowed to do. It's just this weird super leader, like macho. It's like beyond macho. It's so casual. It's just very. So one night he introduced me to his friend Frazuli, who Frazuli I think thought I was Garth's new girlfriend or whatever, and I'm all like, whatever. And it took me a minute to get Frazuli, and then I was just like, wow, he's so charming and cute and a little like cultured and like elegant, aging Gen Xer type of a dude. With a cool main girlfriend and whatever, like so. Yeah, Garth is like, I can't believe Frazuli is, out and about. And they used to like go way back in that city. Yeah. So Garth's little like you're gonna be knife thing. I was like, Garth had this sort of escalating sense of panic, I think, because he just kept like one day he told me, "Oh yeah, my friend went over to hang with Ozark and Aaron at their house and they're still smoking meth." And he's like, "I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what my friend said." And I'm like, and I was like, "Well, wait, I thought Aaron was more the pothead." And then he's explained to me, Ozark hates pot and Aaron hates meth, but now maybe they're a big happy family or something. I don't know. And like, I don't know if that's true. I don't know when Ozark's last meth was, but one day Garth confirmed that Ozark Iraq was a meth dealer. And that was when I was just like, so this thing with the gun and like he had the gun and Officer McNeary was finding this gun in his backpack. And Garth was like, well, he's a drug dealer. He like, of course he needs a gun. Like this, you travel with guns when you're dealing meth. And I'm like, okay. And that was like by the time it was this January 17th, we were walking after city council. I run into Garth. So we walk all the way to this place he likes to get a really good burrito. So we walk way to the edge of town. And I think part of Garth's anger at me is that he told me so much and now he feels like he just fed. But I kind of have a belief about human nature is that people like people do what they have to do to stay sane and they have to get stuff off their chest that is heavy to them. So they tell sympathetic people because that way they could sleep a little or like feel okay. So I felt like well like one night, I think it was that night when we were coming back, Garth kind of had like a some other night. He before I met Frazuli, December 6th, but he was like he had like a PTSD moment where the first time Garth told me his whole like war story stuff from when I was just like a kid. Garth was like 20, 23. He's like not quite 20 years older than me, but but like this time he has this like PTSD moment where he tells me all these soldiers that he worked with shot themselves. They got out of the service, they survived, and they died on their own hands. And there was nothing I could do to console him. We were walking past the Scandinavian Park, and he just started veering into the grass as he pushed his bike. And it was his energy just was like he was getting sucked into this sorrow. And he's a beautiful, like as a veteran, I respect him so much. And I feel like his approbation is not feeling good right now, like as Garth is having this angry vendetta type energy towards me. But Jack, I felt like completely understood me when I was like, well, no, like this is just an incompetent government agency, like all the other incompetent government agencies. And making a report of disability discrimination or whatever, they're probably just going to get a smack on the hand and things will be still business as usual. So they're the ones taking it so seriously and freaking out. I'm not freaking out because I know these agencies are highly ineffective and going very slow. But the thing I feel like Garth doesn't get is that if they don't take themselves seriously as an organization and follow applicable laws, I'm not the bad guy for pointing out they're not following applicable laws to their type of industry. So Garth has been taking it really personally, but I feel like even while he's having this whole like I can't talk to you anymore, and I don't even know if that's also made worse by the fact that I'm like, okay, you're going to threaten that I'm going to be stabbed by 60 angry meth heads who eat at Ozark's place. Like, I guess I have to report that because what if I am stabbed? And I like he had that I started to realize he had covertly threatened me when he was like, "Ooh, anyone who gets in the way of Ozark is I'm gonna have to do with me." And he did this spiel to me like twice at the Capricorn pub where he's always chilling and drinking a rock star. But then after this like 60 angry, his army posse of but like I was like, well, you're not really making the organization look great if you're basically saying there's a lot of violent psychosis surrounding this community. It's actually highly accurate, and I'm not going so far as to say that there are 60 knife wielding meth heads in Astoria all out to get me. Like that to me seems preposterous, but I think his sort of like big talking like flamboyance or whatever was maybe more speaking to like the emotion of the anguish of this impetuous reign of terror that is like into discriminating against disabled people and women and all that. So the cool twist of events with the bully investigation is he's adding gender discrim, and I didn't know if that was possible because it's like playing some video game where you don't know what the rules are and you're trying to like understand the parameters of what they're looking for so they can get the most accomplished. Like I really just want change. I want better treatment of people regardless of like whether they're super millionaire or super poor. I think they should be treated equally and fairly. And then today from city council I was getting kind of like a oh gosh, I got there so late and it was awesome because really they're so boring. I can't really stand it. So, but I had a feeling of this is an attempt to have democracy, something democratic. And a part of the process over at Lifeboat is that it's not. They're not even emulating anything democratic. They don't even, there's no even nod, like tip of the hat to democracy. It's all top down power mogul, like heavy dictatorship. And one way I'm recently now thinking of how to look at, I was reading, the Wikipedia on Bakunin, which I've heard this name like a million times, Proudhon, Bakunin, and Karl Marx I'm more familiar with. But then like Bakunin had this like divergence into like anti-authoritarian anarchy. I don't know anything about this really political philosophy, but I find it fascinating. So I was thinking that, well, okay, maybe the problem is that like these sort of like anti-communists or whatever, anti-socialist type people are just going to say anytime you have any semblance of socialism in communism or socialize anything, it's always going to be taken over by some megalomaniac who then oppresses people. And that is kind of exactly what's happening. Like, it's like, okay, you have socialized free lunches, but now the one guy who took over all the food won't let certain people eat. So, because he's a control freak and mean or something like. So the Trank articles hitting the Daily Mail. Mary's Club in Portland is now a major squat. Michael Fuller was quoted in the Daily Mail. That's kind of an accomplishment. Basically saying it's just like one of the worst, most scariest, dangerous squats ever. Lindy, oh my god, she's so awesome. She's told me everything about a bunch of scumbags in my town. Like, basically, predator after predator. And like, what's up with dudes doing stuff non-consensually? What's up with dudes not having any consent training or sexual assault understanding? Don't do stuff to unconscious women. Garth, Badger, like, shout out to these like quasi good guys that do creepy stuff. I got so annoyed with this new Johnny Depp movie that was like blasting all over like France 24. I love my France 24. They just introduced me to a new artist that I didn't know called Fada Freddy. Oh my gosh, I love him. From Senegal. Oh wow, he's got a beautiful voice, great energy, very like uplifting music. But yeah, Johnny Depp not so much. And this lady, Mai Wen, she's so beautiful. She's like Vietnamese, Algerian, French. Wow, beautiful. But like her standpoint, well, she was basically exploited sexually as a child by Luc Besson, this other like basically kind of like a Harvey Weinstein of France, like a pedophile exploiter, serial exploiter of women, it sounds like, from what I'm reading. I used to follow some of this on Twitter, but I'd always be confused because I don't really know their anyway. So her perspective is like the teenager who's having a child with France. What can you do? Oh my god. It just seems like they're so pedocriminalité friendly. So is tank of Freon at the plant? What is he talking about? Miss Bamboozer. SunnySidePost.com. NRG's proposed Astoria power plant slammed as company attempts to revive plans. A large energy company has plans to build a power plant. Is this us? Gosh, no, New York, Astoria. Never mind. Is it? So I think I'll have to work on a script later. I guess I got derailed by my friend. Oh, he says I love you though. Okay. I just walked to the room. What? Don't call me a cop, please. Please. Officer Bobby Bucket. Like PC policing my podcast. And you're saying like, don't publish this video. Yikes. Don't air out people's dirty laundry. And like, nah, predators need to like run for the hills. All your stuff be up on the internet. Speaking of which, Chris Duffy was cited at the Fred Meyer in Warrenton. He's continues to still live under a rock on a hill, probably due to not being able to come clean about why he is a serial sexual attacker, wants to work at Meals on Wheels Seaside. If anybody wants their elder, who knows? Maybe he's the killer of Anna Knudsen. You never know. He was like into elderly porn back in his 30s when he was attacking women in LA. And at least I got Special Districts Association of Oregon as a concept into my brain, basically trying to hack my way into the corruption of the Seaside Parks District and Seaside City Council was kind of like good practice because I did learn some terms. There's everyone can turn in their ballot tomorrow if they're voting for this boards or whatever. They're doing a committee for the library to like basically have this bond measure to finance and fund this improvement of the library. So they're gonna like talk to the people about what they really want. I thought about speaking about the issues surrounding how anti-homeless the library has been lately. They're like, oh, we won't give you a library card if you can't prove your residence. And then like it used to not be that crazy, but they're like, I mean, maybe the class of community action would front for you, but like, I saw Cheryl today. I was like, oh, hi, Cheryl. And then she immediately started talking to my friend. And I was like, she didn't even say hi back. And I was like, is something going on, Cheryl? Are you not allowed to talk to me or you're just tired of me? And she's just tired. But then I was thinking like, why am I so thin skinned that I get so upset if somebody calls me the C word or WH word or B word? Cheryl's probably dealt with all of that. She's probably been called that. Oh, and I saw Andrea, the really cool one, the really cool Andrea, the one who helped run the shelter. She like was like, I'm sorry for almost running you over, Mary. And I was all like, I love you. And she's like, I love you too. But she's super cool. And then I saw the cute chick from AA that I have a crush on. She was at the stove. And I was like, what do I do about that? Oh, we're in Taurus right now. This is some intense energy. It's really strong energy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I bring my friend who's rather progressive into this shop, and the fellow who runs the shop starts bemoaning the attempt to put a funny farm at Heritage Square. And I was like, oh my god, he keeps using the term funny farm. Like that's not adequately progressive or PC, right? But it's a nod to this like CBH trying to create this like specialized micro studios for our patients or whatever, our unhoused patients. And well, anyway, that was super awkward because I'm basically one for like listening to both sides, and like maybe this is my year of the snake because I'm all just like, I'm just gonna sit here quietly while you say outrageous things. And then my friend was just like, she was like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I was not bringing her in to start a fight with the shopkeeper. And like, it was so awkward. But I wanted to go apologize. But like, today I talked to the Housing First advocate speaker guy about how like, I don't like it that CBH keeps trying to have these little like subsidized housing type projects that imply that you have to be a CBH client receiving some kind of medication or whatever treatment in order to have the housing, because that contingency and because the Housing First guy like read out like what is the really Housing First, it was so helpful because it when I spoke to him afterwards, and I was just like, I don't like the part where they basically imply you are not, you don't deserve housing unless you're getting some kind of psychological counseling, because it's just so degrading. I was like, what if you have depression but you don't benefit from that type of modality? Like, he was totally, they were way cool. And he also said, oh, well, there's nowhere that's doing housing first here. And I spoke with him briefly about the Merwin. So there is fentanyl being sold in the Merwin. So like the dude who's the dealer boy, I see him in the ice cream aisle of Safeway, and I'm just like, whoa, you're the guy who drives the big pickup truck and dates the girl with the scary dog and sells my friend her fentanyls shit outside the Merwin. And like when I like let the manager know about this, he like resigned within like 3 days. He's just like pretty much like, I'm over it. Like, I'm over it. This is like, yeah, manager 1, manager 2, manager 3, manager 4, manager 5. Is that manager 6? That was he the 6th manager? So then they're on to whatever, and I don't know. But I started to realize that the war on drugs. Okay, this is a kind of like a philosophical realization. I realized that the war on drugs in Oregon is sort of, one way to understand it as a labor rights activist is to understand it as the police are on strike from that aspect of their job. They're just like, the police and the justice system are like, sorry, we can't help you. Sorry, we're not going to go get shot over some drugs. Sorry, we don't have the resources to fight your never-ending drug war, or your drug war is too scary. And we'll just stick to traffic tickets or DUIs or something. And it's like, to see that distinction playing out, like I guess there's some federal enforcement of like larger kingpin, like huge distributors, but like the little guys are pretty insignificant. And I think they know that, and there is this like complete tacit understanding everything's okay. Oh my gosh. My friend was like, I'm the connection to the Astoria PD for the, she's for the cartel. She's like, because she's having an affair with an officer. This is her story. I haven't seen her in a while. And then now that the fentanyl trank business is like taking over, I'm so like done with my learning curve with meth. I mean, it's gross, and I don't like meth raging, and it's hard on the body. Like you can see it being hard on people's bodies, but overall, it's annoying. But I'm more worried right now about the future drugs, and I really had this like firm line on the fentanyl smokers where I didn't realize that this person who I like, who I never would go out with to a bar because we would just mostly run out on the street. Like we were trying to be like normal bourgeois. So we go to the gay. I was like, come to the gay bar, has karaoke on a Saturday night. It's going to be so fun. But this whole like everywhere we go, my other friend took us to the Elks Lodge, and then we went then to the Haunt, the sort of cool underground hipster, sort of like indie rock, punk rock place. And every place we went, it was like time to smoke fentanyl in the bathroom. And I was like, I can't be that person that is just like accompanying the big cloud of fentanyl. And the whole next day, my nose was just like burnt out by fentanyl, and like the smell was haunting me. Honestly, what the heck was the smell at Safeway today? Anyone know? The chick with the cool like shaped head and the green ponytail, I was like, did you guys have a fire? And she's like, we know about the smell. And like I was like, okay, like it was a really weird smell. And I mean there was a really disgusting polluting truck that drove by right before I walked up. I mean, he could have been like blowing his exhaust in for a good long time. But it was gross. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and so my SRO, single room, short term rental, STR, little clips, got seen a good bit. And clipping it really short seems to be the trick. Like, don't even just do shorts under 55 seconds. Do shorts, like 10-second, 15-second soundbite clips, and that seemed to be the winner to get their message across. Google Chrome wants access to Control Finder. Allowing control will provide access to documents and data in Finder. I don't want to talk to you right now. Why are you doing a pop-up for me? So that was fun, and they were lovely. The couple standing there with their sign at the Liberty Theater during the market, and I was very aimless, and I was like, not sure what I was doing. So it was like fun to run into them and just feel like free and open. And at this point, like I really feel about activism, I'm less. I'm just intrigued by activists in general, even if there might be great activists on both sides. So I really am like that person. I'm like enjoying their perspective, but also I enjoy knowledge. So I feel that when you talk to these very passionate people that are very into their side, they did help me understand these articles that I keep reading and feeling confused about. And they explained what they felt was the Daily Historian's twist, which is that they want runaway development of short-term occupancy rentals. So the way the Daily Historian demonizes their advocacy campaign is by calling them a wealthy enclave. And they're like, we assure you we're not wealthy. So it's been a classic thing that I've been learning about since I've been trying to be in Oregon, is this like anti-development thing is like this notoriously Oregon thing. It's like one day Tita Montero down in Seaside, she was like, I am the reason my campaign to prevent a 4-lane highway coming out to Seaside is why we have been able to keep our community small. And if I had not fought against that highway, I'm thinking like, why is 4 lanes bad? Like we always have these head-on collisions on this tiny little country road to get here. And like, but then this is the Oregon way, is slow down development to preserve nature. And the nature is so beautiful. And you've got like wildfires in Canada, bonfires here, like deforestation, whatnot. Okay, so now I realize I have two friends that almost died from fentanyl in this town. One from a heart attack from fentanyl-laced weed, and one from shooting a fake oxy that was really fentanyl. And so that is a lot of friends to have a heart attack, a fentanyl-based heart attack. And I like really love them and cherish that they care now. And the whole thing of like weed being laced with fentanyl is kind of weird. And like some people who know this are like getting really choosy about where they get their weed and who gives them weed and how they share weed, because weed culture is very sharing, right? And my friend, I think, entirely stopped doing drugs after his heart attack. So right on, dude. And I didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't know he was doing this. So I feel. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Things I find out. I had a nice chit chat with Dan the other day. Dan and I like don't talk, and I block his number for like large amounts of time. He irritates the heck out of me, and that sometimes I completely enjoy chit chatting with him. So we had a nice chit chat, and then our friend called, and he like grabbed the phone, and he was like all drunk and stuff, and he's like completely more annoying. But he was great before he got too wasted. Well, in terms of talking science. And then I was actually over like listening to people talk crazy amounts of information about drug compounds and chemistry. I was kind of trying to learn things. I don't know if I really care about that subject so much. Yeah, so the investigation could go on for another year. And like in the meantime, I'm starting to realize though inadequacies hmm, the inadequacies are a part of the formula. Or the analogy that keeps coming in my mind today is that when people have a very aggressive dog and they claim, oh, that's just the dog or the dog is the problem, why are they the person that tolerates the aggressive dog? And I feel like having the dysfunctional nonprofit that inadequately treats the low income people is a function of where Astoria is at as a community in terms of how much they care or do they what their value system is. And I think their notoriously horrible anti-homeless attitude they've had, huge $800 tickets and such to the homeless, like up until these like recent decisions and like changes are so like such embarrassingly cruel treatment that having a shabby nonprofit that is verbally abusive and derogatory and discriminatory and hateful is sort of like the next step up from handing out $850 tickets for camping all the time. So that this sort of like stage of development and wrapping my head around that much. And then also there are these. It's just like I wish there could be like a leveling up. How could I say something like that? Such a cheesy term, but like of the homeless people's game. Like I want them to be nicer. Be like some of them are so into being like well groomed, and you can't even tell they're homeless, and being very, very presentable and mannerly. Even like my friend, he could not tolerate my other friend using curse words against women, and I was like, yeah, like bring up the game, but keeping it like very civilized. Okay, well, I'm really bored of my own mind. I was gonna like cry about a bunch of stuff. This was like more boring than city council, really. I just have such a crush on Blair Henningsgard. He's so cute. His brother died in an accident, like a helicopter accident, I think, on the East Coast, and his mom was mayor. And I know that, well, well, I read the nuisance ordinances off of like city code. I dumpster dived one night when I was canning. City Hall always throws away a lot of Dr. Pepper bottles. Whoever's drinking Dr. Pepper at City Hall, oh my gosh. Like, and they don't shred documents. If you ever give anything to Astoria City Hall, it will be going straight into the dumpster. And like, it's just pretty much obvious nobody really wants to dumpster dive anything that boring, but I did. Um, yeah, Blair's cute, and the new police chief is so like, just like he's got a tall, gentle giant, docile bureaucrat kind of. I think I liked the other one. Honestly, he was like from California. That one was from California. And I talked to the tech guy briefly because we had like this 5 minute recess. I'm just like, can you show me what's going on with tech? So they have these two cameras, and the cameras are supposed to autofocus on whoever's speaking. But if they don't go fast enough or like center out, he has this little like it's like an iPad that's a control panel where he can go like position 1 or position 2 or something to like make sure the Zoom call focuses on the person who is speaking. And that was cool because I was saying, well, I just love. I mean, it's a good thing about COVID that we've had this like tech increase because when I came from Portland to Astoria, I was like, whoa, Astoria doesn't have any filming of any of their city councils. So I was like filming a little bit and it was so boring. But then the one time this guy Sterling, I'll never forget this guy. He's like trying to come at my camera and act like I'm doing a privacy invasion to film, and I was like, "No, you're in a public meeting. Like, we have a right to film a public meeting." And the fact that it wasn't filmed and preserved in that way was irritating to me at that time. So it's just sort of so nice that the tech has developed out here to be more adequate. And then I'm still so bored. But I had fun and I smiled. I got a smile from Hilton. So let me see if I can remember their names. Hilton sits on this side. Elizabeth Adams here, and Elizabeth with an S, Elizabeth Adams. Then Scott Spence is the city manager. The mayor is Sean Fitzpatrick. He had kind of a snazzy shirt on today. I'm not sure what's up with his fashion. It was kind of cool. And then Tom Hilton versus Thomas, is it Brownson? Ooh, I think it's Brownson is the older gentleman. And then Andy Davis. And I always like kind of getting him. He's kind of maybe just my age or barely a little older than me, like kind of like cool. And then I was kind of, I really love that we had the city council lady who had the disability needs, that wheelchair access needs, because I think that put the heat on Astoria to pick it up in terms of disability access. Like the library didn't have disability access. Like, like whoa, that's so huge. Like to get to they have this sort of mezzanine loft that is it's unavailable to wheelchairs. And then I like her, Joan Harmon. Was so cool. And I got Steven to walk in with me, and that was itself very powerful. He could probably take. We basically went into recess pretty quickly thereafter, like 15 minutes, and he was like, exit stage left, and has to get ready for his week and stuff. So, but it felt awesome to have a kind of going there alone. It like literally I start getting like heart palpitations and my palms get clammy and I get sick to my stomach and I feel like I'm going to throw up every time I'm planning on speaking. It is just still so hard to do that. So I'm also feeling that like scarcity and demand, like if I just like have said what I've said and that's it, it's kind of more concise. And I believe I've only spoken twice this year. I spoke the one time where I like kind of brought up concern about fentanyl and then drugs in the Skid Row district or whatever we're calling it now, Thieves Alley. I don't know, the commercial street. And but then I sort of like made it welcoming, like thank you for having the energy to be in the government, because I don't have that energy. That's like a lot of energy to focus on all these like civic projects and sewage, like what are they doing now, like clearing out some forest in I don't know, some tree cutting project. And we walked in and it was the restoration of the Niagara Road. It's like sort of Astoria is up this giant sort of slopey hill. So there's this like crumbling road thing up at the top of the peak. I think somebody told me, well, the old mayor was so frustrated with the situation with homelessness that was a part of him not even wanting to do a second term. And I feel like maybe this council is just kind of like, yeah, we know, but we don't know. Or like there's this sense of like nobody knows what to do or where we're headed or how to help this. I want to be able to help, but I don't know either. I found that just being like positive energy and just sort of like sitting there sort of smiling like you're in a family, you're in a flock of people, you're like group social dynamic bonding, like and by not coming I hate coming off as an arrogant, egotistical know-it-all, which seems to be a natural forte of anybody I'm related to. Like that seems to be what we do. So working on that is like I feel like just kind of being more chill seems to be maybe that's a part of the aging process or the brain fog. I don't know, but it's kind of fun. I saw the reporter. She's like fascinates me that she writes these articles and that the short-term rental, not anti-expansion advocates of short-term rental, extreme short-term rentals, they feel that the historian is very much for this extreme expansion of every house could become a short-term rental and nobody could might live here permanently. Like basically Clatsop County might just be a vacation hotel. And it already feels that way. Drink this coffee, maybe. My head is hurting just from thinking. I really wonder who assaulted Dan, and I wonder if anyone knows. I wonder if I can just wander around and ask people, "Hey, you know who knocked out Dan?" You know, because I know people don't like him. I know people who don't like him. Maybe someone will tell me. He did not report it to the police. Why would he if the last time he had his head knocked open, he was prosecuted for his disorderly ranting? And the guy who assaulted him just ran away to go missing. I believe they felt that Glenn would probably be an aid and assist. He was, you could easily say, cognitively disabled man. Just, tall and gangly like Ben. And completely dangerous and sort of clumsy and sometimes on drugs. Poor judgment, one might say. But how bad Dan was, I just am so glad I wasn't there. I was in Portland trying to see my dentist. And getting really sick and not wanting to admit I was so sick. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. May 15th. How long do we have to wait for Gemini? Let's find out when Gemini starts. May 21. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, so we're really coming up close on Gemini. Okay, y'all, feel the good Gemini vibes. Sorry, Bobby, for doing the laundry. There's so much more laundry. I did not even get that much into it.